to the Zoom. Hello, folks. Yeah. I'm having to take attendance manually today because, as Eli has said in the chat, Power School's down. Literally won't even let anyone sign into it, which is very annoying. Okay, so currently we don't have Hayward or Troy.
The Bank of
Oh,
Change.
here comes Troy.
Citywide change rate.
Who is in that scout?
I don't know their names. It's NES.
Yeah, that makes sense because Bill Hader was on from 2005 to 2013, which was like 11th grade for me. Oh, this is old school.
With the customer to get that customer change. You come to us with a $20 bill. You give you 2 tens, you give you 4 5s. With 10 and 2 5s. I went to my first citywide.
I love him.
Yes, I was in kind of a 10 and 2 5s. Well, the computers picked up my mistake right away. Got the correct change. Business a long time. With our experience, any of our ideas will change companies. We have a $50 bill, we give you 50 cents.
25 Gs. So statement. Nate, will you close the door since you're up?
If you come
my
in with a $100 bill, we're not gonna give you
2,000 nickels.
unless that's what you want. The first time I saw that, I was rolling.
Oh, that's so good. All right, we got everybody now. Everyone is here. Okay.
There's a second one that's shorter and not as funny.
Well, maybe we can watch that one at the end. Okay, so this week, we're really like wrapping stuff up because next week we're doing some senior stuff and I'll send out an email to remind you about that. But this is really the last week of English content.
Let's go.
So today we're gonna have our final daily grade. We're gonna look at we're doing a final. It doesn't count for 20% of your grade. It's like a test grade, but it's the only test grade we've had this quarter. So it does count for a lot.
Is it like a whole year test or is it like a?
It's not exactly. I'll show it. I'll give it to you guys tomorrow.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the essay was the final.
And it is going to be open note, open book, open whatever. So I'll give it to you tomorrow, and then we'll have until Friday to do it. We'll have the rest of this class to do it. So this is the last real week of stuff for us. Well, really for all of us, because June 9th, your grades are due. So
Is 13 days or is it 12?
No, this is right. I fixed it. I fixed it for today before I left on Friday. So today's really the last day of like new stuff in here. And what we're gonna do is look at some poems, which by the way, I've graded almost everyone's essays, but I can't put your grades in on Power School because Power School is down. It was quite good, quite good. Yes. Quite good, quite good. Did I get questions essay?
She lied. She read yours. She just don't want to say it was bad.
I actually like if I have your essay, I have not looked at it yet. Do I have your essay? Okay.
Bro, Christian asked me inquire on Friday what the essay was supposed to be about. There's no way he turned to anything.
This is what I'm saying. People rat on you all the time, Christian. They're like, Christian's trying to get me to cheat in math and like text me for answers.
Nobody else does it.
Maybe one time in a pinch, and I get that.
Okay, so we're gonna look at 3 poems, and if you look here, this looks a little bit different for you than for me. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. This looks a little bit different for me than it does for you because you can see here that I have the test, but I just haven't published it yet. But I'll publish it tomorrow and go through it with you. But we're gonna look at this 20th century poem comparison. We're gonna look at 3 different poems. They're all quite different from each other. And you're gonna pick one of them. After we read through them and kind of talk about them, you're gonna pick one and explain how you see the values of 20th century British culture reflected through the poem with examples from the poem that you chose, and or how you see Victorian ideals rejected through the text, also with examples. And it should be about a paragraph. So if you read one and you're like, I don't feel like I know enough about 20th century literature, but I do know that in Victorian literature, they were very specific about gender roles, and this is kind of rejecting that. You could write about that. So let's take a look at these poems. And I think I'm gonna read the first one and then the third one and then the second one. I could just reverse it, but so this first one is called Hawk Roosting. It's by a dude named Ted Hughes, who was married to Sylvia Plath. And if y'all remember from last week when we did stream of consciousness stuff, she wrote the book about killing herself, and then she did kill herself. So this was her husband, but they're both very famous poets of the time. He did not die. In fact, I feel like he has died like within my lifetime. When did Ted Hughes die? 1998. Okay, so this is called Hawk Roosting, and I think you'll be able to tell it's kind of from the point of view of a hawk, which is cool. Anybody want to read this one? Nobody wants to read this one. Now, what if somebody really wanted to, and now they feel pressured? Okay, Hawk Roosting. I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed, inaction, no falsifying dream between my hooked head and hooked feet, or in sleep rehearse perfect kills and eat. The convenience of the high trees, the air's buoyancy, and the sun's ray are of advantage to me, and the earth's face upward for my inspection. My feet are locked upon the rough bark. It took the whole of creation to produce my foot, my each feather. Now I hold creation in my foot. Or fly up and revolve it all slowly. I kill where I please because it is all mine. There is no sophistry in my body. My manners are tearing off heads. The allotment of death for the one path of my flight is direct through the bones of the living. No arguments assert my right. The sun is behind me. Nothing has changed since I began. My eye has permitted no change. I'm going to keep things like this. So when I first hear like we're reading a poem from the point of view of an animal, I kind of think like, oh, that'll be cool to see a different perspective. It makes me think of this one other poem that is from the point of view of a dog. And the whole thing is like, my master is the best. I love running. And like, it's very wholesome. This is less wholesome.
That's exactly how a dog poem would go.
Yeah.
Master is the best. I love running.
Here's the really, excuse me. Billy Collins dog poem. Not that one sounds terrible. 2 poems about what dogs think. Oh, we don't want to see a TED talk. No. I don't know.
There was like a screenshot of it on the Google Images. Like the first one? Not the second one.
Well, apparently he's got more than one.
Dog related poem.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not,
cool.
that's not it.
The way the dogs travel.
Oh. Is it this?
As young as I look, I'm
This was not the one. Maybe he just wrote a lot of poems about dogs.
Maybe you just like dogs.
Which, who can blame him? I can't blame him.
I like dogs.
This is definitely different though. Particularly with lines like "my manners are tearing off heads." And like, if you think about hawks, they are very like, they're birds of prey. They're aggressive. The imagery here is pretty harsh. Let's save the drawing for a little bit later until we're done. And it even talks about like his point of view is like he's got a lot of power. He feels very powerful. He says, "Now I hold creation in my foot." Like you would think that he was at the top of the food chain from the way he talks. So it's very very aggressive, very assertive, very it's like almost condescending towards other living creatures. No arguments assert my right. Friggin' birds. It's a lot. And he doesn't want anything to change. So that's our first poem. It's just kind of like easy and fun. There's not a whole lot, to look too deep into it. We're gonna come back to that one because that's my favorite and the most involved, sort of. So I picked this one because it is one of the more famous poems of the 20th century, and you may have heard some of the phrases from it before. It is also a villanelle, which is not a type of poem that we've probably tried to write before. But all that means, it's kind of like a sonnet in that it has particular rules that it follows. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of 3 lines and 1 set of 4. And it's got particular stuff going on with the rhyme scheme. Which this one is interesting because following this really specific pattern, that's kind of anti-20th century, actually. That's not very common in a time when we're doing a lot of experimenting with forms and kind of breaking out of tradition. This kind of goes back to a very traditional thing. It is said that he wrote this for his dying father. Hard to know because his father didn't die until quite a while later, but maybe he did. So maybe he was like, "Oh, my son is good at writing poetry. I have something left to live for." I don't know. But just kind of keep that in mind with what the poem is about. Anybody want to read this one? No? Oh, sorry, I didn't check the. Okay.
Whose birthday is it?
Tomorrow is Eli's birthday.
Oh, happy almost birthday.
Yes, Eli. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Brave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. What does that mean? What's the message here?
Gay meteors.
Not gay meteors. What does it mean?
The dying light makes me think of like fighting to live.
Yeah, fighting to live. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Yeah, like
Do not go gentle into that.
don't give up. Don't just accept death. Fight as long as you can. Make your life count as much as you can. Don't just like fade away. You don't necessarily agree?
80-90% dying.
Mhm.
Sick, probably have cancer.
Way too much junk food.
You're gonna go gentle.
I might just call out. I might just like, you know what? It's been a good run.
I don't know that I'm gonna rage. When I'm 80 or 90, I don't know that I want to rage. I think that's a fair point. I think that's fair. Just ready to like call it a day when you're 80 or 90. But yeah, and then he kind of does address his father at the end. I kind of get it when I get your point. Like if it was you and you're 80 or 90, and you've lived a full life and everything, you might be like, all right, I'm kind of ready to just call it a day and I will go gentle. But if it was somebody else, like somebody that you loved that was dying, you'd be more likely to be like, just hang on, just try to fight, try to hold out. Okay, last one. And this one's really interesting. Like number one, I like the rhyming in it. It's fun. But this is called The Unknown Citizen. And this guy who wrote it, he is British, but he wrote it when he came to America in 1939. If I remember right, the Social Security Act happened in 1935, which Social Security, because we have Social Security numbers now, the government knows everything about us. Like people worry about like getting tracked by a vaccine. That's a silly fear because the government already knows everything that they need to know through Social Security, through social media, through all this stuff. But primarily Social Security. Do you know how easy it was to just like start over before Social Security? You could like move to a new town and be like, oh, my name is Nate Ravenel now, when actually your name was never Nate Ravenel. And you just like pick up and have this whole new life. Nobody could really check it out. There's no like paper trail of your existence. So just just start over, just have a whole new life, fake your death and move somewhere new. How do you do that? Nowadays, I don't know. I think you have to like know some seedy individuals to make that happen. If Breaking Bad is any indication. But back then, nobody really had a way of checking up on anything you say. You could be like, I'm a doctor, and they just be like, okay, cool. I got him. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're reading this. The Unknown Citizen, we're in this time where Social Security is a brand new thing, and we have like all of this information. The government has all this information on us. And this is interesting because it is kind of from the point of view of the government or the state about this unknown citizen. He was found by the Bureau of Statistics to be one against whom there was no official complaint, and all the reports on his conduct agreed that in the modern sense of an old-fashioned word, he was a saint. For in everything he did, he served the greater community. Except for the war, till the day he retired, he worked in a factory and never got fired, but satisfied his employers, Fudge Motors, Inc. Yeah, he wasn't a scab or odd in his views, for his union reports that he paid his dues. Our report on his union shows it was sound. And our social psychology workers found that he was popular with his mates and liked to drink. The press are convinced that he bought a paper every day and that his reactions to advertisements were normal in every way. Policies taken out in his name prove that he was fully insured, and his health card shows he was once in hospital but left it cured. Both producers, research, and high-grade living declare he was fully sensible to the advantages of the installment plan and had everything necessary to the modern man: a phonograph, a radio, a car, and a Frigidaire. Our researchers in public opinion are content that he held the proper opinions for the time of year. When there was peace, he was for peace. When there was war, he went. He was married and added 5 children to the population, which our eugenist says was the right number for a parent of his generation. And our teachers report that he never interfered with their education. Was he free? Was he happy? The question is absurd. Had anything been wrong, we should certainly have heard. What's the point of this? Saying all of these things about this guy? Probably something, yeah. You've got all this information about him, where he worked, what his job was like, what he bought. Okay, yeah, I think you're on the right track there. They know everything about him. But then these last 2 questions, or these last 2 lines, was he free? Was he happy? The question is absurd. Had anything been wrong, we should certainly have heard. They know all of this stuff about him, all of these facts. But when it gets to the end, these big questions, was he free? Was he happy? What was he really like? What was his, what did he think about? We don't really know. What were his goals in life? We don't know, because you can't track that kind of thing. Now I would say, like, these days we have a little bit more of an advantage, because you can kind of look at people's social media and like their online presence and at least get some point of view, even if it's not like 100% accurate to what they're like as a person. They're at least like giving you some information. But back then, they've got all these facts. You can track people's purchases. We know he has a phonograph, a radio, a car, a Frigidaire. You can track what his family is like. How many kids does he have? When did he get married? You can track whether he went to war. You can track, if he's ever been in the hospital. But what you can't track is what a person's really like. It kind of makes me think of how, like, nowadays, you'll follow celebrities on social media and you get so much insight into their life that it's almost like you feel like you know them. You can be like, oh, I had a kid, like they had a kid at this point, they're getting a divorce here, like look at all these new things they bought. You can really feel like you have a bird's eye view into what their life is like, but you don't know if they're happy. You don't know if they're having conflict with their family. You don't, as much information as you have, you don't really know the person. And that's kind of the point of this. Like, we have all this information. The government is able to track all this different stuff, all these facts. But when it comes to actually knowing who a person is, that goes beyond facts, and it goes beyond just a list of information. You can't know what someone is like through just tracking, their social security number or whatever. You got to actually know a person to really know what they're going through. Bless you. Okay, so you're going to choose one of those three, and you're going to answer in about a paragraph how you see the values of 20th century British culture reflected through the poem, with examples. Or how you see Victorian ideals rejected, also with examples. If you need to go back and look at any of that stuff, my immediate thought was files, but yes, you can. In files, 20th century British is right here. You just have to download it. And Victorian. Victorian literature, same thing. Okay. So that is all. And in fact, did I even put, did I put a due date on this? I mean, it should be today. You really shouldn't need more than 20 minutes to do this, but yeah. So it's technically due tomorrow, but you have 20 minutes now that you can work on it. And then tomorrow I will give you the final test. We'll have the rest of the week to work on it. If any of y'all have other stuff, like if you haven't turned in the essay yet, I'll hold you back for that. But I think that's it. Any questions before I let you virtual folks go?
Did you get my essay?
I did, yes. I don't understand your question, Eli.
Hold us back until you get it.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I don't understand why it did. I literally did the essay.
Did you try to submit it on Canvas or email it?
Both. It said it was too big to email.
Very weird. I don't know why that would be.
So I'm going to try again on Google Drive.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Google is sus.
Yeah, I was actually having issues with Google this morning. Okay, if y'all want to leave and finish this independently, you can. If you'd rather hang on until you get it turned in, that's fine too. I'm gonna turn my stuff off and y'all virtual folks holler at me if you need me.
You're welcome. That was much needed.
No, not really.
You know it was.
What talent show y'all talking about?
On the day before graduation, the 14th, Monday, the 14th, there's a talent show in 6th and 7th period.
Oh, nah, I'm straight.
Are you doing something, Sterling?
I don't think so. I hadn't really been preparing for anything, so probably not.
Yeah, facts.
Wait, what?
Unless Call of Duty's a talent.
Sure.
Oh, you're talking about for the talent show?
That's what we're talking about, yeah.
I thought Sterling wasn't doing anything. He is doing something.
Sterling, are you coming here today to record something?
Yes.
Okay. Chip was worried about it.
I can tell he's always worried about stuff.
Yeah.
Brennan, are you doing anything for the talent show?
No, I'm not very talented.
That's ridiculous. I've never heard a more ridiculous thing in my life.